Sit down, children. Sit down. Quiet. Quiet. We have some news to announce. Please. Back to your seats. What we are going over today is the incumbent if you are an EU Chad, or the already happening reset if you are an NA Virgin, about what is happening this week. This week, the highlights are going to be Tazavesh is going to be unlocked and the new raid is going to be available. We are going to have, of course, also Mythic Plus with the new affix, the new balancing and tuning for the new season. However, in case you have been living under a rock, on the moon, under a bed, Mythic Plus is going to have its item level locked to 229 for the first week. You can still complete a plus 15 to loot 252 item level reward next week, so it's gonna be worth, if you really want to go for it, to do 10 Mythic Plus dungeons just to get the farthest and largest and widest and thickest possible array of rewards for next week on the Great Vault, especially because there is no Mythic Raiding item level reward available, so the best heroic item level you can get is 246. So Mythic Plus for this week is gonna beat raiding rewards. However, when it comes to the actual loot you can get this week, heroic is going to be far superior, because heroic is gonna be giving you 239 item level, Kel'Thuzad and Sylvanas are going to be giving you 246 item level, whereas Mythic Plus is just gonna be at a measly 229. Tazavesh is gonna be sitting in the middle because the hard mode is going to be able to give you 233 item level, which is still, kind of poor, but it's just free extra gear that you can get this week. Also, some of the trinkets, as usual, trinkets can have a pretty, increased value regardless of their item level, as we are seeing recently with the Tome of Insight and its power. Now, what I can direct you towards? I can direct you first towards Mythic Trap. Mythic Trap is the site I mentioned for the first time somewhere like all the way back in November, and it's done a lot of steps since then. It's grown a lot, They even got a collaboration, a partnership with Echo. Look at that. They even have up to 8 different translations available for the guides. Mythic Trap is the easiest site you can go for when learning a new boss encounter. The actual guides you can see on this site are rather straightforward and surface level. You're not going to be seeing a lot of information about the abilities themselves. You're just going to be seeing essentially the tooltip of all of the abilities and then a few notes about it. It's not really going to be in depth. Basically, you're not going to be seeing how often these abilities are casted, or how long the dot lasts, or how long the snare or the root lasts if you get hit by that. Unless it's directly written in the tooltip, you're not going to have much of a clue. So it's not that good for understanding bosses and encounters and mechanics to that extent. The reason why it's good is because it's a repository, it's a compilation of GIFs of all of the mechanics of the bosses. This is very, very good, because it would take you a lot of tabs open on your browser with a lot of videos of encounters just to be able to see all of these. And in this case, they are even focusing on the actual mechanic happening, zooming in, telling you what's happening for every single mechanic, and you get to clearly see what exactly is going to happen with the mechanic and how it needs to be handled. Again, on the surface level, you won't be seeing too many numbers, too much data about it, just the visual help of understanding the mechanic so that you can immediately tell what you're supposed to be doing with the mechanic. Then you can go in depth, in other sites, in other ways, or testing and wiping yourself on the encounter. You can understand it a little bit better. But at first glance, for a first pass on the mechanics, this is the more comprehensive and the more complete of the sites you can go for when it comes to boss mechanics, to understand them. Now, if you're a boomer, if you're too old, you don't want to watch videos, you're more into text, into written guides, maybe you're a little baby and you enjoy images, then you can go to Schlimm's shorts. Now, aside from a few of the entry-level informations like, guys, this is where the raid is, this is where you have to go tomorrow or today, and other things like the order of the bosses, which is kind of relevant. You have to choose for quite a few of them. Taragru and Painsmith Rezal are going to be the mandatory ones you have to do in each blocks, and then you get to choose either or. Similar to what happened in Castornatria, although Castornatria was even more open in the middle in your choices. the actual guide is going to be way more written, way more text-based. There are going to be a few GIFs, a few presentations and animated instructions on how the mechanics are going to work. Most of them, like you get to see Predator's Howl for the Taragru just by using, I'm assuming, an unlisted YouTube video, just showing you how it's supposed to be working with a few notes next to it. It's going to be basically somewhat similar to Mythic Trap, just a little bit more with an homebrew feeling. And the list is going to go on. Most of the stuff in here as well is not going to be as technical and as detailed as you might want, but it's going to be more than the Mythic Trap one. So you're going to be able to have a few more numbers, a few more information related to all of the different mechanics, etc., compared to Mythic Trap, but it's going to be way more text-based, way less GIFs and actual presentation and animations of all of the different mechanics. So if you're one of the guys who literally has to see every mechanic to understand what it's doing, even if you read on a text, dodge this red circle or you get one shot, unless you actually see the red circle, you don't understand what the fuck you're supposed to be doing. In this case, this guide is not going to be as useful for you. Lastly, we have the full Boomer guide by Dastey, which is going to be mostly text written with the good old 2006 vanilla paint instruction guides for bosses. So it's going to be much less, let's say, advanced than Mythic Trap and even Schlimm Shorts, at least when it comes to the presentation, right? It's just going to be way more crude, way more raw, and just pure text. Whichever one you prefer, you get 3 different options for you. You have Dastey's, which is more like full-on text and old school. You have Schlimm Shorts, which is more of an in-between, an halfway, and then you have Mythic Trap, which is the more modern type of guides. Now, going into the actual numbers, many of you are now starting to feel very sleepy. You are suddenly being hit by an urge to go to sleep because you are finding this unbearably boring, but this can be important for progression and for strategies. This is going to be a repository of essentially all of the abilities that all of the bosses are going to cast. For pretty much all of the encounters, you will get to see the total damage that the ability does. If the ability is split amongst a certain number of players, you're also going to be seeing the damage per player. You're going to be seeing the type of damage of the ability, just in case it is not written in the tooltip, and then you're going to get the Wowhead links for every single one of the tooltips together with the spell ID of every one of the spells, which can be useful, for example, for add-ons and similar things. Next, we have a return of what we had already in Castanatria. We have the Sanctum of Pinapples, essentially completing the bosses in a minigame, in essentially what is a flash minigame based on the actual mechanics that you will be fighting and finding in the encounters. Again, this is pretty helpful for the people who have trouble understanding mechanics just by reading them, just by reading a guide and being told what to do. You have to actually see the thing. In this case, you can even try to do it yourself. Sure, there is actually a pineapple, and you're actually fighting pineapple-looking guys, but at the very least, you still get to see the actual mechanics happening. So it might actually help some people to understand mechanics better if presented this way. Then, to go a little bit more in depth, you have Viserio's healing CDs. You can take a copy of the Google Docs and then edit them yourself. What it does is it gives you the full list of essentially all of the defensives and the externals in your raid. Then you get to type in your healer roster and the roster of all of the players that can have any one of these abilities, even something like Rallying Cry for a warrior and Anti-Magic Zone for a DK, for example. And then you can go on boss by boss, type in the timer of all of the abilities or get help and essentially simply take the timers that you can already find in the own sheet from Viserio and then plan ahead with all of your cooldowns so that eventually it can look something like this. You can then copy and paste this into your add-on in-game, something like Exorsus Raid Tools, which has been renamed, but it's still Exorsus Raid Tools, and it's going to be able to give you, your notes for the strategy, essentially, that you plan on using. Lastly, to finish on the raid help, we have raidplan.io. this is doing exactly what it suggests. You can choose the boss, something like Painsmith Raznal. It's gonna give you all of the boss art that you want, the WoW icons related to all of the abilities, just in case you want to make it, you know, even more clear about what you're planning to do. And then you can put them in, you can tell the people, range DPS, you have to stay fucking here, you clowns. Whenever he moves here with the tank, you have to hug this corner and the healers have to spread, right? This is gonna be much more easy to understand. Another one of those things where the visual help, you know, if you have some players that are better or they simply understand better when they get visual aid rather than reading guides or even watching images, if you just explain it this way, they might be able to, you know, understand it a little bit better. Now, across all this, we have not mentioned yet the other thing that is going to be coming out. So this was all related to raiding. These were all tools to help you get ready for the new raid. We have one thing, which is Tazavesh. So Tazavesh is going to have two options. It's going to have the normal mode, which is 226 item level, and the hard mode, which is 233. I was about to just give you a YouTube video, maybe even a written guide about it, but guess what? Mythic Trap also has the guide on how to start hard mode. It's not really that complicated after you have done the 10-minute quest, 10-minute pre-quest in Oribos to actually go to Tazavesh and enter the dungeon. The whole goal is going to be doing the first boss in normal mode, just normally. After you kill the normal mode boss, you get to go down in the essentially neutral NPC area, talk to the questionable trader, which is going to sell you the blue necklace. Once you have the blue necklace, you're gonna try to enter what is essentially the nightclub area of the zone. Except the guy is going to tell you to fuck off because you don't have the password. In that case, you have to go around and do some RP, essentially a minigame related to delivering certain items to certain NPCs. For example, you find a broken flask, you have to carry it to the alchemist. You find a weapon, you have to carry it to the guy who sells the weapon. Until eventually, once you have completed all the tasks, you're going to be told the password. After being told the password, you can enter the nightclub zone. Inside the nightclub, you can talk to the guy that is going to turn your blue necklace into the epic necklace, which is what is going to eventually enable hard mode. The only thing you need to be aware of with this is, for example, if you are with a group of 5 friends wanting to do the whole thing by yourself, you will need a fresh instance to enter hard mode. Because if you do this, you gain access to hard mode, you go out, you reset the dungeon, but the dungeon will have the first boss defeated. So you will be saved in normal mode. You won't be able to enable hard mode if you have defeated the first boss. So what you have to do is all 5 of you get the necklace. So all 5 of you get individual access to hard mode. You go out, you disband the group, you reset the dungeon, whatever. You log an alt, you recreate the group with that alt, that fresh alt with a fresh lockout as the party leader. You enter the new fresh Tazavesh with your alt as the party leader. Then you remove the alt, the guy logs out, relogs his main, joins back in, and now you have a fresh lockout of Tazavesh, and all of you have the mythic necklace that allows you to enter hard mode. That is the only thing to be aware of, basically, because actually getting to the enablement of hard mode is really, really simple and also quick. You just have to remember not to screw yourself up in this, lockout part. So this was all that was available for today. All of this information related to raiding that is going to be available from today or from tomorrow, as well as Tazavesh. We will go eventually a little bit more in depth into Mythic Plus as we get closer to next week. So to the next reset when Mythic Plus actually unlocks fully, all the way up to Mythic Plus 15 rewarding 236. In the meantime, we will spend a little bit more time dealing with the raid and a little bit more of Tazavesh, because that's what's gonna be the key for this first week. Mythic Plus will be much more important from July the 13th, basically. Thank you guys for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, you should support me by, holding me, I guess. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, it's too hot. Again, it's time for some ice cream. This time, though, it's gonna be something new.